Well, my name is Jim Caseman, and this is session number 1 of something different that we're going to try for a little bit. It's a long story, but I finally got talked into it, and we're going to be talking about the life of the Casemans, or you could say the life story of Jim and Kathleen Caseman. And so I'm going to, the first, week or two or whatever, I'm going to give where I was raised, how I was raised, and then all the problems that I got into because I was not born again. Got into a lot of trouble with drinking, drugs, and all that sort of stuff until I was 29 years old. So we'll cover the first 29 years, and then we get into how God changed our life, Kathleen's and mine, when we finally got born again. And then we'll be talking about all the things the Holy Spirit did, in addition to what he did before I was born again. All right, so that's kind of how it's going to go. And so as far as I can remember, I don't know, it's way back there. So probably 5-6 years old, I knew what was going on. I was raised with my parents on a farm of about 1,200 acres. And unknown to me at this time, of course, another 150 miles away or so, Kathleen also was raised on a farm, my wife-to-be, on a farm of about 1,200 acres with her dad. And he was grade A dairy, we were grade B, 28 cows, he milked 80-some. And then we were diversified after that with stock cattle and different grains. And then also, I was raised in a German-speaking community, Wishek, North Dakota, W-I-S-H-E-K, Wishek. That was the center, kind of all these Germans that came from Russia. They settled in North Dakota, northern part of South Dakota, and southeastern corner, mid-central North Dakota. Probably right in between Bismarck, Aberdeen, and Jamestown, for those of you that are familiar with that area. But Wishek seemed to be the hub of it. And so we were Germans from Russia, but it was also German Jews from Russia. And so, of course, I wasn't aware of the Jewish part until after I became a believer at age 29, but found out then that it was through Grandpa Dunner and that we were the Jews that came from Russia. So I had no idea of what was going on until when I was a Christian at age 29. I realized then that my mother and her twin sister and her other 2 sisters, the 4 of them, we would all get together on our farm most of the time because the other 3 lived in towns. They could get away better than my parents had to stay on the farm. You have to milk the cows the same time every day, 7 days a week. And of course, they would be in the kitchen, and the husbands would be going crazy because they couldn't understand a word that their wives were saying. And of course, I found out, like I said, at age 29, after I became a Christian, that they were speaking Yiddish. And that's when I discovered at age 29 as well that it was through Grandpa Dunner that the German Jews came over as well. Matter of fact, recently I found a picture in one of the yearbooks of Ashley, North Dakota, which was southeast of Wishek, where I was raised. So this was about 20 miles from the farm, or 15 or 20 miles. And a picture in this centennial, picture of the Jewish synagogue in Ashley. And they had these Jewish rabbis traveling around from Danzig to Wishek to Ashley. They were circuit preachers. And of course, eventually they disappeared, and eventually you didn't hear anything about the Jews. It just kind of like everything disappeared and everybody went underground. That was kind of crazy. So I never was raised Jewish, even though my mother and sister had. So I don't remember any of that. But we were German-speaking community, everything. So that meant that church was German-speaking, Sunday school was German-speaking, everything was German-speaking. And then when we got into the 2nd grade, the teachers got a hold of my parents and said, look, you're going to have to stop speaking German to your children, because one day English will be the language that the whole world will be speaking. And of course, as German-speaking children, in school we had our German cheese and accents, German accent, the cheese, the chase, and all of this, I suppose. And so my parents stopped speaking German to us. Of course, they still spoke with their grandparents, and with their parents and what have you, they spoke German. But our German was Low German. I found that out when I went to college years later. I was going to take an easy subject, German. Oh, was I in for a surprise? I struggled for about 1 month, and I said, I'm out of here. And I went into a different class. In college, it was what you call High German. So in other words, for a horse in Low German, which we spoke, would have been Ross. But in High German, it's Pferd. So that's two different things, Pferd, Ross. And it started driving me crazy when I was taking German in college because there were so many words I'd never heard before because it was High German. So I bailed out, stuck with English then, and in the college days. All right, and then of course the other thing I think is important, we need to understand because just about anybody you talk to, they've had their Jewish background. I don't know if you've had that experience, but I have. Everybody's a Jew. But the real Jew, for you and I as born again believers in Romans chapter 2, verse 28, the real Jew is not the one with the circumcision of the flesh, but of the circumcision of the heart. In other words, when you're born again, the Holy Spirit changes your nature. The old nature is peeled off, and now you have a brand new nature. You're a brand new creation, a species that never existed before. And so you and I, as born again believers, we are the real Jews. We're all Jews. And as far as God's concerned, because we're circumcised of the heart, we're born again. Born again believers are the real Jews. Praise be to God. So some of you have never heard of that before, maybe, I don't know. All right, so then, and of course we both are raised on, my wife and I, as you'll find out later, I think, diversified farming and 1,200 acres each. And so we would end up then in those years, the equipment we had wasn't state-of-the-art like it would be years and years later. We had tractors that moved slow. For example, my father had what we called the Model D John Deere, and you would stand on it, most of the time you'd be standing, and you'd have the hand clutch you'd push forward and backward, either to go forward or to stop. And today they wouldn't get away with it, I suppose, but we'd be like 8 years old, 7, 8 years old or so, and being it moved so slow, Dad would put us on the tractor. And we'd have fields like this one outside the house. It was a half-mile square, I guess, 200 acres. So you'd be looking a half mile to see the end of it, which was tough. You'd look over there another half mile. Oh my God, are we ever going to get there with a 3-bottom plow? That wasn't very wide, dirt that be turned over. And so then I learned one thing, of course, keep the tractor moving. It's move slow, put, like old John Deere. But keep it moving. That's the only way you're going to get to the other end of the field. And I learned to do that even in the ministry. Jim, keep moving. Do one thing at a time. Eventually you'll get to where you have to go. I guess that I never did get rid of that. And then it would move so slow that I'd start falling asleep. But fortunately, this tractor with the kind of big wheels in front, it would stay in the furrow all by itself. I could jump off the tractor, go behind the plow, and just walk for a while behind the plow, because I was starting to fall asleep, and then get back on. And I know one time I fell off, and of course I went through the plow, but I didn't get hurt, fortunately, because later on we would not only have the plow, but we'd have a packer, and then where the seed would be planted, and through this other, I forgot the word for it, but anyway, it would pack it and plant the seeds, and then another packer behind it on behalf of the seeder. And so then, a good thing I didn't fall off then. That would have been a bad day. I probably wouldn't have survived because the packer was pretty heavy. But anyway, us children, we'd be driving trucks and tractors and everything, 8, 9 years old. Never thought anything of it. Well, I see our time's coming to an end. I'm going to do my best to keep it at 10 minutes like I did with the Getting to Know God Intimately series. So God bless you. See you in the next session.